We're going to talk today about startups and squat practices and buying one and the mistakes you can make or the errors and the things you've got to watch for. And so I've been doing this now for 6 years for Samara, and before that I was doing it for RBS and NatWest as a healthcare director. Yeah. So the common mistakes when setting up, well, the biggest one is location. So even if we're buying a practice or setting up, the biggest error is location. It's got to be visible, it's got to be accessible, especially nowadays. You've got to have all the disabled access and everything else. And if you want elderly patients and you want young mums and buggies, it's got to be accessible. And people don't think about this. They buy a practice on the first floor, and then they don't get any patients. So location's very, very important. Costs, we talk about costs a lot. Overspending is very, very easy because everybody wants the latest equipment, the nice LED lights and big colour TV, you know. And you've got to be very, very careful you don't spend too much on the fit out, or if you're buying one, on constantly changing stuff. You don't want to be changing it too quickly because patients don't like change. So what you want to do is do it slowly. If you want to change things, do it over a period of time. Experts, get the right people to do what they do. So if you're going to build a practice or you want to change a practice and you want to put in another surgery, get a dental builder to do it. He'll do it to CQC standards and it will be finished correctly. You won't have to redo it. I mean, a number of times we see people change things or build a practice, CQC go in and go, that's not right, no, that door's wrong, you know, the floor's wrong. I mean, I had one in Scotland, the guy put down carpet in the surgery. Even I know that's wrong. So let's be honest, you know. And obviously, employing the wrong team member, you've got to get the right team because they are the face of your business. You're busy doing dentistry. Somebody outside can be ruining your business in reception. So you've got to make sure you've got the right people. Oh, there you go. What's going on? So take the time to find the right site. Even if you're buying or setting up, it's got to be the right site. It's got to be visible, lots of people. Use other people's experience. So I always say to someone, if it's opposite a Waitrose or a McDonald's or a Costa's, they've done all the demographics for you. They already know who lives there, who spends money. They know all these things. They spent months doing that, and therefore you don't have to do it. It's great. So set up opposite somebody like that. Cost, if you're setting up only one surgery, Michael, all right, at the beginning, because you're only going to use one surgery. Otherwise, you're going to fit out 2 or 3 surgeries, and they're going to be very expensive storerooms because you've got to pay for the stuff that's in there, and you're not going to be using it, so don't do it. Use professionals. We just said about professional builders. Use a specialist dental solicitor. Use someone who understands the industry. The worst thing you can do is employ somebody who doesn't understand what you do. So I've had a solicitor in the past ring me and ask me what a UDA is. So that's a really good start, you know. It's not going to go well from that point, is it? Yeah? And as I've said before, build a good team. Get a good receptionist, face of your business. They're the person that people coming in is going to see, not you. They're going to see that person first. So make sure they're the right people. So we're talking about setting up squats. So how do lenders view squats? They view them as quite risky because obviously you've got no income at the beginning. So you've got no income and lots of costs. So interest rates are a little bit higher. You'll be paying 3.5%, 4% plus base. And they require more information. Obviously, when you're buying a practice, the information comes in the brochure from the selling agents, and they've got accounts. So all that information comes in. When you're setting up a squat, you haven't got all that information, so you have to provide it. You have to provide what you're going to do, what you're going to build, and you also have to do what's called projections to show what your income is going to be. Yes, it's a guesstimate. It's an estimate of what you're going to do. Not all lenders understand squats, so not all lenders understand dentists. So you've got to be careful, and you've got to go to the right people. And they want the detail, and they want explanations. If you're going to say you're going to do something, they want to know why you're going to do it. It's no good just saying, I'm going to do implants. You've got to say, right, well, firstly, I'm an implant person. I've qualified. I've got all the qualifications. This is what I'm going to do. I've got the equipment. I've got a CBCT scanner and that sort of thing, yeah? So you've got to actually justify why you want the money. How much will they lend? That's the biggest one. So for a squat, the lenders will lend 70% of the total costs. They will lend it 15 years if you've got a 15-year lease. They will not lend it over any longer at that point. The rates, as I say, are approximately 4%. If you want to buy the property as well, they'll lend you 70 to 90% of the property value. If you buy a property, if you buy a freehold, then they'll extend the term to 20 years. And the rates are cheaper for a property because it's secured. There we go. Practice purchase. All right, so if you're going out and you're going to buy a practice, don't overpay. It's very easy to overpay for a practice. Somebody else wants it, the price goes up, the agent rings you, said, oh, you're 30 grand more, and suddenly you're doing this with a price. It's like buying a house. Don't overpay for it. Because if you overpay at the beginning, you've got to get that money back in value by working very, very hard. Lenders will base what they'll lend you on the valuation, not what you pay for it. All right? So if you overpay, you will be paying the difference between what the bank value it at and what you've paid for it. So it can be very, very costly. And understand what you're buying. Understand it. You've got to understand what the profit is in the business. I've used the term there called EBITDA. It's not the net profit of the business you're looking at. It's what's called the EBITDA, which is a banking term. And it's the real profit of the business. So you have to investigate the accounts of someone who you're buying from, and you have to understand what's in there. There might be things in there that you wouldn't have as costs. I've got some examples of that. I had a guy who had £30,000 worth of storage costs. So I'm thinking that's a lot of money for storing a few files, and it wasn't. He had 10 classic cars, but that was going through the business. We've seen people putting their children through university by paying them a wage. Now, they won't be in there if you buy it, so therefore it improves the profit. So it's worth checking these things. If you can't add value to the practice, you've got to ask yourself, is it the right practice for you? So if you go and buy a practice that's got 25,000 UDAs, in 2 years' time, they're still going to have 25,000 UDAs. So what value can you add to that practice? So can you bring in private work? Could you get another contract from the local area team? What can you do with it? Can you add a surgery? All these sorts of things. But you don't want to be buying something and then keeping it the same. And again, remember, money's made on the purchase, not the sale. If you overpay at the beginning, when you sell it, you might not get that money back. So remember that. Banks are still very keen to lend to the sector. They like dentists. You are actually really good payers, and you actually, if you don't want the business anymore, yes, sell it to another dentist. So it moves on. So you get value for money. COVID had an impact, but they've allowed for that in the accounts, so don't worry about that. If the accounts dropped in 2020, they make an allowance for it. So that's not a problem. But obviously make sure that if you're trying to buy a practice, that the accounts are up to date. The number of people we see, and back me up here, 2020 accounts. We're in 2022, and they're asking you to pay for a practice, but they're not giving you the information. So you want the up-to-date accounts, and if the accounts are more than a couple of months old, you want what's called management information, which is the up-to-date figures from the business to actually see where they are. And obviously, if you go to one lender, you're going to get their product, and that's it. It is dangerous. All right, for you, all right, I will say this, go to one lender. I've seen people I had a guy he went to a bank, I won't name the bank here in case they're here, and they gave him a loan. Not a problem, they gave him a loan. They gave him under the Enterprise Finance Guarantee Scheme. So he ended up paying 2% a quarter extra because they did it the wrong way. So you've got to be careful who you speak to and that sort of thing. Use a broker. We will go out to 4 or 5 banks, we will go to healthcare specialists, and we will get a really good deal for you. For practice purchase, they will lend you more than for a startup, and that's because it's considered less risky. So generally 80% of the goodwill value. Again, a 15-year term if the lease is 15 years, and the rates will be lower. because you've got income. You've got income coming into the business. So you'll be paying somewhere between 2.5% to 4%. Again, property, they'll do 90% of it because it's less risky. And again, they'll do a 20-year term. So you can actually borrow the money over 20 years. So the best advice we can give you is, if you're doing a startup, control your costs. The expression we use is, you have to think what you want, you then have to think what you need, and at the end of it, you've got to think what you can afford. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. Location is key for startups and for buying practices. And you've got to understand what you're buying. Don't rush into it. Look into the accounts. Go and sit outside the practice in a coffee shop and watch how many people go in it. See what the area's like. Take a walk around. Don't just rely on the seller's information. And dental is still very much a green light sector for lenders. They really do like dental. So if you get the right practice and you've got the right deposit, you can get really good deals. Slides are available, as we said. If anyone wants to text that number, they'll get the slides sent to them eventually. Well, not doing it today, are we? No, not today. And £5 will go to the DEC, all right? So any questions? If what you can do, if you want to talk to afterwards, just email either me or Dan, and we can fix up a call, either in the evening or during the day, during your lunch hour normally, or actually we can do them in the evening, which is easier for people. It's much easier just to have a chat in the evening, and we'll go over it all again for you, and we can actually personalise it to your own situation. Are we done? Excellent. There you go.